My name is Edward Groody. I live in the United States. I'm from New York originally, and I'm the president of what's called the Community Building Institute. In America, we have what are called nonprofit organizations, and our mission is to spread the experience and the principles and the healing of community to the world. The Community Building Workshop was developed by a very famous author in America and around the world, who was very popular in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. His name was M. Scott Peck, MD. His most famous book was The Road Less Traveled, and he also had many other best-selling books. And after his books came out, he did many workshops teaching people about spirituality and personal growth. And he noticed that in some of these workshops, people had this powerful bonding experience. He called it an experience of true community. And he also called it an experience of unusual safety and extraordinary respect. And other times when he would speak and do workshops, the group would not have this powerful bonding experience. And he said, well, why is that? So he studied this for several years. And he came up with guidelines for communication that if the group followed these guidelines and these principles, they were very likely to have this powerful healing experience of community. He described the experience as an experience of unusual safety and extraordinary respect. And so he took these guidelines and developed a workshop so that people could have this powerful experience of connection and healing and safety, and also take the principles and bring them into their everyday life. And so the Community Building Workshop is about learning how to create this safety so that I'm able to communicate more authentically, and I can let go of my barriers that prevent me from communicating effectively with other people. The workshop process is very unique, and many people find it very valuable because of that. One of the things I like to say, most people are used to the facilitators being very directive and breaking people up into small groups and giving instructions. In this workshop, the workshop process is completely experiential, and the facilitators are more guides. So there are no PowerPoints, there are no handouts. At the end of the workshop, we do what's called a debrief, where we talk about the experience and we do provide information to help you take the experience back home. But the workshop is completely experiential, and the group goes through certain stages of development. The first two stages are very common. People will recognize them from their everyday life. But the third and the fourth stage rarely happen in life. Because people lack the awareness and the skills to know how to have this experience. And one of the reasons to go to the workshop is to learn these guidelines for communication so that you can have this experience of connection and trust and unusual safety and better communication skills in your life, whether it's your business world or your family life or your church or mosque or synagogue community. And there are many other practical applications also. But people routinely say, after the workshop, I feel closer to the people in this training. I communicate better with the people in this training than I do in my family or my everyday life. I just did a workshop where there was a PhD social worker who said, I learned more about listening in this workshop than I did in my 3 years of graduate school. So I've been doing these workshops for a long time. I became involved in my mid-20s. I was, at that time, doing a lot of learning and growing. I had a great job, was the director of a government program, but inside, my life wasn't working. Part of my personal story is I had alcoholism in my family history, and so those dynamics were catching up with me. And I was not feeling connected to other people. And I would say, as part of what I'm saying, that in America, and I think this is true in Europe, that isolation and fragmentation and polarization are a big problem. There are many people who don't feel like they have people who they can really be themselves with or have close intimacy with. And our society, there's many people fighting and not knowing how to be together. And community building can help with this. And in my life, I was an example of someone who was somewhat isolated. Even though I was in a successful life, I felt disconnected and isolated from other people. So I was reading Scott Peck's book, The Road Less Traveled, and I was in therapy at the time to learn about myself. So I went to one of his lectures, and he had 4 lectures during the day, and his last lecture was on community building. And he spoke on community building. I said, that's what I need, and that's what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. And I kind of rose out of my seat. I remember the experience. My hair on my arm rose up. So when people ask me, how did you get involved with community building? I say, I got involved in community building because I needed it. And I still need it today. That it has taught me, as a part of my personal journey, I was very good at looking good for the camera and looking good for other people and knowing how to please them. But I lost touch with who I really was. And so community building is very good for many people, but for me it was helpful to learn how to not look good, but just to be who I really am. And it continues to help me in that way. So I felt a deep calling to do this work in the world and to spread, in America we say spread the good news, to spread the good news to other people. So after I went through my first workshop, I went to one of the very first workshops ever, and after the workshop, Scott Peck and Marianne Schmidt, then the executive director, the leader of the Foundation for Community Encouragement, asked me if I would work for the foundation. So I was on the staff with Dr. Peck, and was very blessed to be mentored by him and taught by him in this work, and his wife Lily. And so worked for the Foundation for Community Encouragement. After that, I had a consulting firm, and I used community building with my consulting in business. So I have a lot of expertise how to use community building in the business world. People see the power, the power and the mystery of what community building can do in individual lives. It can be very practical things like learning how to listen and how to communicate if I'm a parent or if I'm a leader in a business. It can be running a social service program. There are so many different benefits, and our goal is to spread this work in Europe to pass it on to other people.